divided, distracted, and afraid. From government psyops to algorithmic manipulation, from media echo chambers to political theater, we're asking the question most are afraid to face. Are we still being programmed?
Oh my gosh, Chica, it feels like a scary story. Hello? Yolanda, are you speaking? We can't hear you.
Doggone it. Yes, sorry. I had to set the mood.
It sounds like a scary story, like X-Files music's playing in the back of my head right now.
Yes. Okay, then good. It did exactly what I wanted it to. But hey, welcome back, folks, and welcome back to today's stream number 10, Chicas, Locas. Hi, Cynthia. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well. I'm glad to be back. We were off last week, so I'm glad to be here again with you, with the chatters, and with this topic tonight.
Good. Let's say hi to our chat really quick. Arpo, hola, hola, ¿cómo están ustedes? This one will be big.
Yeah.
Hi, Chris. Welcome to the stream. Miss Cynthia is saying hello to the chat. Mindful Exposures, good to see you, sis. We'll see you up here shortly.
Mm-hmm.
And Leah, thank you. Thumbs up the stream if you feel like it. We'd appreciate it. And Ms. Jessica Jane, thanks for coming back and visiting us over here at Chicas Locas. Buenos noches. She told us we were beautiful. How are you?
I'm doing well. I've been going down some MK Ultra rabbit holes today, and I'm really. This is definitely a rabbit hole that can get you swept away really quick.
It can, and the reason why I decided I wanted to talk about this subject, we've been on this path. I've noticed in our past streams, breaking down the digital experience and what to be aware of, but then also watching the psychological characteristics that we all exhibit here on these streams, on these live panels, and the information that we share. So then I started to research more about MK Ultra. I only knew a little bit about it. So you want to go ahead and give me your input on it?
Well, I did a little research. I was actually in the middle of reading Chaos, which is about the Charles Manson, because some do believe he MK'd Ultra, the people, the family, as they were called, to do the acts that they were convicted for. So I did my own little research, and it's basically it's brainwashing. It's erasing memories and implanting new ones. And it was an operation that the CIA was doing in the 60s, I think in the 50s and then the 60s. And
Yes.
however, everything, all records were destroyed in 1973, that's pretty interesting right there in itself alone.
Yeah, I'm not surprised either, though, how many of locations where all of this information, I was finding out about those doctors as well that participated in this throughout the years, and how much of their data was erased and deleted. I was not surprised, but surprised too that we've been able to even find out as much as we have about it. But
sorry. Well, without the records, we never know truly the extent of what they did. There was talk of they would lure people in, and like they would lure in a John, let's say, and they would have the lady of the night like go to the bathroom, and then they would spray the room with aerosol of LSD, I believe it was, to start this process. And it was just, we never know exactly what they did, how far they pushed it, nor we don't know if there was any death ever resulted as a part of this experiment.
Well, some of the more key moments that you were just giving us examples of was 1953, Project MK Ultra is officially launched under CIA Director Alan Dulles. And then the 1950s, 1960s, human subjects are given the psychoactive drugs without warning. So that's what you were talking about, the ladies of the nights, particularly in San Francisco. They had created locations, and they would encourage people to participate and hang out and take these drugs, and with the prostitution as well. But they didn't let the people know that they were being watched or that they were subjects to the experiment. And they had those double-sided mirrors where they could watch and see what was going on, but the people didn't know that they were being watched. Like, it's just crazy. So I noticed that even in 1995, President Clinton issues a public apology for unethical radiation and drug testing. Do you remember that? I don't remember that.
No.
Yeah.
So when I started reading that, like, we all have those conspiracy theorists who starts going down rabbit holes. Now, just because records weren't, revealed or found, were all destroyed, enough was left behind that anybody could probably try to piece it together, what was happening or a possibility of what could happen. So I started thinking, how many therapists do we, because everybody's encouraged, it's okay, go to therapy, seek therapy. How many of them are somehow doing this? with the hypnosis, that was something else that they would talk about. I remember. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to add on to that during my research into trying to find footage of old recordings of the patients and also of former victims of this, the recordings I was finding particularly interesting were the ones from Canada. And there were 2 different women that were speaking about the doctors there, and that's how it started. One was pregnant, and she was depressed after her pregnancy, and she was well known. Her husband was also a doctor. I think a doctor or a psychologist. Not a psychologist, but he was I think he was a doctor. Anyway, that's what happened to her. She became a subject and was vulnerable, to the psychiatrist. And he started to administer these drugs to her that even her husband hadn't heard of. And so she asked us, another friend of theirs that was a psychiatrist, and told her immediately, don't take that medication. And because it's going to have really bad side effects. And she trusted her doctor, and she took it, and then it's messed her up ever since then. Her memory, her mind, and her nervous system. So she trusted him.
How many people, early in the 90s, happy pills, everybody was on a happy pill. And hypnosis was huge. I remember teachers were doing hypnosis on students and for fun. And I was like, hell no. At a young age, something just seemed off about that.
Well, something else I learned, though, Cynthia, is that, so they used LSD. That was one of the main ones, right? Through the hypnosis, sensory deprivation, isolation, abuse, and psychological torture. But then I also found out that from those studies, they were able to develop Prozac.
Oh.
Okay, so then in the 80s, they started really administering those types of drugs out for depression and such, which, by the way, I think that this is not any medical advice. We're just having a conversation with one another, going into a deeper dive on some of the information that we've learned, but this is not any advice for anybody.
No, at all. This is just our interpretation of the situation of MK Ultra.
Thank you.
Well, what I gathered is that the program was originally created to get people to do things that were against their will or moral code. They wanted to create assassins, basically, who could go and do things and then come back and have their memory erased of it.
That's right. Trauma-based programming, again, creating the disassociation and then inserting false memories or controlling behavior with suggestive reinforcement. So they were creating Manchurian candidates.
Yes.
Yeah. This is right up your alley, Miss Cynthia.
Well, then I start thinking about our content creator friend who has a dad that's in psychology. And I started thinking, well, if you have this type of mind, this conspiracy mind, this I can piece things together, you might come up with some form, way, method to try to do that yourself. You may not be as successful as the CIA. However, there on certain levels, there can be mind manipulation games that people play with each other. And learning about this has made me realize, hey, there's a couple of y'all out here that might be trying to do this to people.
Yes, ma'am. I mean, I can see it. I see it on these different channels and how they're able to manipulate the audience and create narratives and then create the toxic tribalism, and then they spread the lies and the manipulation and how that trickles into all the different channels. But I was also thinking about, so what are the modern parallels? Are we still under this MK Ultra, and are we still being programmed? So I was trying to come up with examples. So the 24/7 news cycle, right? That keeps us in a state of fear, outrage, or distraction.
Mm-hmm.
So, breaking news, right? There's a lot going on right now with the war, talks of war. Let's see here. So in that example, the controlled narratives across platforms, they reinforce specific ideologies and agendas, which is what we're seeing happening right now with the current state of affairs of politics.
I started looking at like TV, and it was this when we have the Mandela effect. Is the media as a whole, are they trying to replace our memories? Because it's more than just erasing a memory, it's replacing a memory. And I also started thinking how we romanticize the past. Are we just replacing our own memories? Because sometimes it's easier to look at things and only see the positive and not remember the negative that went along with it. So we should be looking forward and not, oh, things used to be so great.
Gosh,
mentalities.
Right. The nostalgia of things. I never even thought about it that way, but that's so true. I mean, you and I have sat on panels with people that want to have arguments with us where that's exactly what they're doing. They're romanticizing the time that supposedly existed, and they want to reinforce that romanticized idea and inflict it into the conversation and push it onto us. But the social media algorithms reward emotional reactions, the fear and the anger and the tribalism, I've noticed.
Oh, right. Like, are we all being MK Ultra right now? Like, is this did it just evolve over the years? 2025, they used that. We now have technology that can assist us. Let them do it to each other.
That's right. The users are slowly trained to think in the binary terms, good versus evil and left versus right, and we see that happening on here every single day.
And the algorithm will make sure you find the right people that think like that too, so y'all can cluster together and become bigger.
Yeah, I mean, even the concept of the censorship too. The censorship of the voices and the labeling of misinformation also creates a sanitized reality. So we do our own censorship on our channels, right? We can block people, we can give them wrenches, de-wrench them. So we talk about this a lot too, of creating our own echo chambers on these channels. So like a micro version of what we're talking about.
It's a deep subject, and again, if used, if something bad happened to you and it was just a trauma experience, and it didn't really help you in life, it hindered you, and you were able to erase that memory, that would be an amazing thing. But as we know, the ways of the modern world, somebody's always going to figure out a way to make it nefarious and use it to destroy, which is why we have these shows to still ask you to pay attention and be aware of this stuff.
Right, because there's a lot of false flags and staged narratives, and even the weaponization of identity on here.
Oh yeah.
And these are all just talking points that I picked up and wrote down for the stream, and it's amazing how it all connects. The crisis that we're going through in the world right now, it equals control, right? And the emergencies, they justify new laws and surveillance and censorship. So I thought, let's talk about this subject before things really start to change on here, because I don't know about you, but I feel like things are going to change in terms of what we can say and what we can do.
And I especially feel that way after the situation that happened in Las Vegas. It's definitely going to change the way this platform operates.
Well, and then I had to think about, so who benefits from doing this to society? And the war machine, big time, right? Because the fear keeps the defense budget high and the conflict profit contractors. So we're watching these different politicians. I've been paying close attention to who's purchasing what in what stock, right? The oil prices, etc. It's just such a different awareness that I have. And then I started to think, who else benefits? The banks and the corporations. So this manufactured crisis, it's going to lead to the economic shifts that we see, and this talk of resets and more digital control. I mean, I'm sure you've talked about having that experience yourself with your job and how you felt that shift happen when COVID occurred. And then the last example that I was thinking about on who it benefited is also the religious and political institutions. So, they're going to keep the populations emotionally reactive and obedient and divided.
I think of it differently. Not necessarily who benefits, but I'm thinking of it who enjoys it more. It's almost like a game of survival of the fittest. All right, y'all survived 2020. Let's see what you got for 2026. And you just see, even now as I go about in the world, in my area, I can see the change in society changing. There's more and more people outside asking for money, young, old, different races. I went to Dollar Tree this week. I got the inside scoop. They're going to be raising up to $1.50 this weekend. Everything slowly starting to creep in. And I see this, and I think there's a top agenda that I always say is the top 1% of the top 1% that has a narrative that they're trying to create. And this is just part of it.
Yeah, I mean, this stream isn't about fear. It's about waking up from the autopilot. If you can see the programming, you can break free from it. In my opinion.
Agreed. And not even necessarily break free, but just see it, be ready for it, be attentive to it, understand that change is gonna come eventually in life, and understanding how to navigate through it and not be caught on trying to live in the past and what the past once was.
Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping that the past isn't going to reoccur, but it seems like there's another hiccup. You know, it's just a different version of it. When I was listening in on what the goal was to potentially do what Elon is suggesting with that Neuralink. They were speaking about that in the 1950s of creating something like that so that they could control the population. And when I learned that, I thought, okay, that's a little bizarre, because now it's being advertised as something that is encouraged for health, right? That's how it's starting. And then we see through the propaganda of the television shows and stuff, they've been showing us what the benefits would be if you get this chip in your head. You know, you wouldn't need any of the technology would be in you. And that's what transhumanism.
That's scary.
I know.
That is so scary. That's just a scary thought in general. Of putting a foreign object into your body. How would your body react to that chip? How would the energy from that chip alter your not only your state of mind, but your state of functioning as a human being? Maybe it's not instant, maybe it's not huge, but over time, I wonder, there's not even enough data and research, I wonder.
Well, they've started it in a way like with these cell phones, right? We have control right now over if we want these phones or not, right? Mm-hmm. You don't really have to have it. But you can see that in different countries that you have to have the phone if you want to get into buildings, if you want to get your citizen score, if you want to get access to your accounts and such. If you want to ride on the train, if you want to get on a bus, you can't do anything without scanning a QR code from your cell phone.
That's wild. Well, I can't get in my apartment without my cell phone.
That's crazy.
Right.
I mean, I was looking at getting a new car a couple years ago, and I decided not to because I was so pissed at the push button. I wanted to have an actual key, and here in California, they've switched from using keys. I know in Oklahoma they still use the keys over there, but I thought even that was a little interesting to see the difference in the states. But back to the microchip thing, I worked at a veterinary hospital for 10 years. Mm-hmm. And I watched them encourage people to microchip your pets. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's a stage of testing to see how well that technology works within the animals first. I mean, they did it through cattle, and now they encourage us to do it through our animals. And I would think that they're going to say, well, it doesn't hurt your dog or it doesn't hurt your cat.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Because I have my dogs chipped. And I always go back to check it every 2 or 3 years just to confirm it's not moved or anything. And
I guarantee you it moves. Yes.
Well, one of my dogs, it hadn't. On the other one, it had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They were shocked, too, that it hadn't moved. They're like, wow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when I was looking into the MK Ultra information, there was over 149 projects.
That's insane.
Yeah.
And I wonder how many of those people who took it out, like it lived on. Like just because records were destroyed and there's no official, it lived on. It lived on in compact underground conversations. It lives on. Mm-hmm. And it's important to understand that, because that's a technique that will be used, whether it be used against you in the real world or the metaversal world. Be aware of it and understand it. That, hey, something ain't right here.
I agree. This is all just be aware. Have
And I'm sorry.
no, you go ahead.
And I think about how some of this alters your mind. Or some of these, obviously they're trying to replace it, but then like the stuff that they can't alter, how your body just naturally, maybe they're doing something so bad, your mind just clicks and changes itself. Like, I don't know. I don't know how to convey what I'm trying to say. Just be aware. And like sometimes you realize when you're not talking to somebody who, how can I say it in a nice way, Yolanda? Like, sometimes, when you're talking to people who might have gone through trauma and they're just in a traumatic state, like their mind automatically clicked. Maybe they're not being whatever right now, whatever you want to call it, programmed, groomed, whatever you want to call it. But just because something triggered real quick in their mind, like there's an everlasting effect of these things.
Oh, girl, that's the lights are on, but nobody's home effect.
Yes. And have you heard of the designer babies?
Yes.
I hear a lot of people with the designer babies are saying their children have that look.
Whoa. Okay. Well, I mean, I'm not a scientist, and I don't really know much about how that program works, but I know somebody that it makes me question in vitro.
Yeah, me too.
But then again, I try not to get too conspiracy oriented, but like a couple of people that I know that are, I want to say that they're a little bit different, but I could be completely out of bounds on that one. It could be the way they were raised as well. But sometimes I wonder, like, what is the difference between organically creating life in comparison to artificially doing it? I don't know.
I would imagine that they would somehow sprinkle in super steroids or something, like in some type of chemical. In order to get the cell to connect, we have to mix it with da 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 da. Like, I'm just thinking out loud. I mean, by any ways, I'm no medical doctor. If anybody knows anything about that procedure and wants to correct me, please do. But in theory, I can see it coming in through a chemical used to do the injection.
Shit. Well, I just want to say that down in the chat, I shared a link of one of the really good documentaries that shows some excellent footage of speaking to these different doctors that break it down. So I highly suggest, if any of you are more interested in the topic, I put it down there in the chat. Yeah, it's great. It's really great. Let's see here. So I know that we're going to have a guest tonight before we open up the panel. So are you okay with us inviting her up now?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, if you're down there in the chat and you're listening in, Esra, go ahead and come on up. That link is for you to bring up some information more about this.
Because she deals a lot with the sleep studies and the brain activity. So I'm curious to hear how it alters the brain. Is your brain ever able to reconnect back to itself? Obviously, from motorcycle trauma, I've had a friend who was night and day. There's pre-injury, post-injury, completely a different person. I can understand how that, because there's physical trauma, but does this MK altering these techniques, even people who are pretending that they're doing it, is there something that causes a misfire, a misconnect, a new bridge, and something in the brain? And I know this is right up her alley.
Yes, it is. And welcome to the stream, Miss
Thank you so much.
Mindful Exposures.
Thank you, ladies. Appreciate the opportunity.
Happy to have you here.
This is so right up my alley.
I know.
Oh,
It is
What we
right
are
up
watching
your
happen
alley.
right in front of us, right? Like, again, dopamine trauma bond looping. So really, and what I mean by that is you have literally rewired your brain to feed off of trauma and drama. And that's what gives you dopamine.
Okay,
We
so
all know what kind of panels have or channels are really exuding that get scrutinized constantly. And we wonder and we're so confused. Why do these people choose to be over there?
right.
Ding.
How come? So can you tell us more about what happens with MK Ultra and why, if you know about them splitting the left and the right brain and creating more of the amygdala part of the brain, damaging that. What is the main nerve?
And what you're thinking, right, is like what they're attacking is your flight or fight system. So
Yes.
that you're constantly putting your body in that that sort of status. So then that's what feeds it, and that's how you learn how to like when you learn how to fight through that is how your body learns how to release certain hormones. So then you can come back down from it and relax. So that's again where I'm going to get at. Like if you're sitting watching, trash television, it's literally because it's calming you down because that's how your body has learned to respond to the signal, if that makes sense. So as far as MK Ultra goes,
Yeah.
and something I would love to get into as far as like what I watch during my time in sleep and watching EEG and watching healthy adults versus adults that were on 2 pages of medication and the
Oh,
differences between their brain activity. Yeah,
what is
pretty
the difference?
Oh, like hyperactivity versus just like are you there? Like so, and I'm hoping that tonight we'll get a chance to do this. Yo, can you see what I pulled up in the background by chance?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, great. Okay, great. This is a good example to kind of show first. So to try to help people somewhat understand what I used to do. This doesn't super help, but just that, like, this is what I used to watch. So we used to hook patients up with these amount of leads, and we were monitoring certain portions of their brain. So when you look
Mhm.
at little notes here on the side, you're looking at something that says F and C and P and O. So you're looking at frontal, central, peripheral, occipital, and temporal as the T. So these are again. So I'm if you could see,
Is
you go
this
ahead.
is one brain? This is one brain we're looking at,
Yes,
and just
yes,
different parts of the brain.
that's correct.
Okay.
And so we section it off so that we can kind of catch patterns, and that's what they're trying to show you right here. Because they're trying to show you in this scenario, like so to help you score it, so you understand what stage you're looking at. They want you to look at certain specific signals. So this is actually stage 2 sleep. This is I'm sorry, excuse me. So, and I have other slides here to explain this, but you go from alpha, oh, alpha, oh, wow. Can't say it right now. Alpha, beta,
Mm-hmm.
theta, and delta, you've heard people say. And there's also components of omega and sigma that show up in your EEG as well. So, all these components are different avenues of where your activity is at different portions of your sleep. And I will let me show it actually since we're getting into this. Let me show that slide real quick.
So I imagine like when you know how like when people are on the heart monitor and it's like beep beep beep, and then when they pass it's like beep. I always imagine your brain was just on beep when you were asleep because you were asleep, so it was asleep too. I never realized it was so active.
Yeah, and let me go back to that last tab. If you look at the bottom there, that red line at the bottom, that's your
Yeah.
heart. So we were always monitoring the heart with this, and
Does
that
the
is
heart rate
because
change with the activity?
yes, it does. Yes, it does. Now, most of the time, it's pretty like either you're in a slightly higher
Mm-hmm.
rate or a slightly lower rate depending on what stage of sleep you're in. But
Mm-hmm.
overall, like that doesn't change. It shouldn't fluctuate too much. But I will tell you,
Mm-hmm.
and something we had to learn to look for is, especially in our older patients, as you had sleep complications, you often would show us or throw a major heart anomaly in the middle of your sleep. So we talk about people who die in their sleep, right?
Right.
I'm not trying to scare anybody, but we would catch that before it actually happened in real life.
Mm.
If that makes
How,
sense. So
is it like 10 minutes ahead of time, 20 minutes, or like at the
no,
beginning of
more like think like days to months ahead of time. So we're catching you
Really?
going into an arrhythmia that you shouldn't be going into. And what happens is our bodies are very strong. So generally it's going to try to kick you right back into rhythm and get you right back on track. But if you do it over and over and over again, and this is happening in the middle of the night and nobody's catching it and nothing's being done to fix it, sometimes it leads to like a heart attack in the middle of the night.
That's
Like my
So
uncle was one of
wild.
those people. Yeah.
let me ask you this then, Esra. Would technology increase that chance?
Well, that's a hard one, okay, because we're so complicated in like, especially with heart disease, what causes heart complications. And what I was watching mostly was actually complications from breathing issues. But let's
Okay.
talk about stress and immediate trauma and like distress on a body and how your breathing changes during that.
Yes, that makes perfect sense to me,
Right?
because with in my life how much I've recognized the importance of proper breathing and looking more into ancient practices of proper breathing exercises and stretches with the body so that you oxygenate the organs and the blood flow.
Exactly.
Okay.
And also what we see happen is like it regulates every part of how your body works. So like, and then of course, as somebody who would watch your sleep, if your breathing was in a beautiful pattern, then so was your EEG.
So
And the
how
more
would
disrupted, yeah, the more, yeah.
So, how would, for example, if somebody is binge watching television or live streaming for hours on end, and you recognize that there's not really much time there for rest? What your opinion on watching these streamers that do things like that? What is your opinion health wise
I'm
on
gonna
doing it?
it's gonna be hard for you guys to recognize this necessarily, but so one of my favorite things to talk about, I should say, not necessarily take to the doctors to be like, look at this, look at this. But something that was becoming very prevalent in sleep studies and notable was something called alpha intrusion. And this is something that when you're normally in deeper stages of sleep, what we're seeing happen is that you're showing spikes of alpha waves. So alpha again is usually something you're going to exhibit while you're awake, and sometimes you're going to exhibit when you're in a high anxiety state. So with technology, there's a couple different things I did see. I mean, to be honest, so like one, especially like somebody who is hyper obsessed or glued to their blue screen and like avoided taking breaks just prior to bed. There's so many patients, how common this became. I would love to hear from people in the chat because I know this is so common, who fall asleep with the TV on in front of their face and have been doing it for years. And I'm going to tell you right now, like you could see that in the brain activity. So as you start to fall asleep into these wider, slower stances, as you're kind of looking at in front of you right now. So when you're awake, they're a lot sharper and closer together. Let me kind of, actually, now that I just said that, let me show you guys that slide again. So you can see here, awake.
Does your brain ever rest? Does it ever just shut itself down?
Yeah, and the most common state, which is kind of interesting when we talk about stages, is delta. So delta, we're going to see this really loosey-goosey, like almost non-coherent brain activity, and wide and big. And then I'm going to see other activity going on with your body. Sometimes I'm going to see your breathing kick up or fluctuate a little bit more. Sometimes I'm going to see a few limbs kind of move. And not a lot, okay? For the most part, everything's quiet and calm. But stage 3 is actually where you sleepwalk versus REM, right? A lot of us understand dream sleep, which is very different than delta. And REM sleep, you can act out your dreams. So people would get confused by that because it's like, how could you sleepwalk? without you actually being in a dream state. So that kind of gets confusing, but that usually happens as a kid, and sometimes they think that's just you sorting out your activity. But here's the interesting thing: in REM sleep, you release hormones that paralyze your muscles, so you can't normally act out you can't physically act out your dreams. You've heard of certain people punching people in their sleep. That means they have usually REM behavior disorder, and you hear about that with combat vets a lot. So this is like a miswiring of the brain, right? And so it's like triggering the wrong signals at the wrong time, causing these disruptions. And those people have a lot of mental psychosis during the day, a lot of anger, a lot of stress.
Wow. Okay. So I have a relative that that's what he is experiencing is the sleep apnea and the trauma and the damage of his spine.
Oh, interesting. Ooh.
So I'm listening to you speak about this and these soldiers, right, that go through the combat and the trauma and everything, and how it affects their sleep as well. It's just damage.
Yeah, a lot of them.
Damn.
And actually, like one of my favorite stories ever was, I love this patient, but was doing a sleep study actually on his wife, and she was horrendous. But we got her all dialed in. I got her on some new equipment, and we got her apnea fixed. So once I got her quieted down and I got that resolved, all of a sudden her husband's like right next to her, just going to town. So I think
well, now my cousin has the sleep apnea machine. And,
oh, really?
And I think that
it does help with REM behavior. Yeah, like if you have REM behavior, it's not uncommon that you often will end up having apnea. I think it ends up like resorting to that because your sleep's so disrupted and your breathing becomes so dysregulated that it just like exacerbates the situation in your sleep, and that's what can cause it. So the machine just calms you down. It's not necessarily they probably have severe, and that's not always the case, but and like this one guy who had REM behavior, he had severe. He had his AHI was like 100, and he was one of the highest I ever had, 115. That means he stopped breathing 115 times a minute. It's not even like possible.
Well, then
Sorry, an hour. Did I say a minute? I meant an hour. But
so,
that's still like, think about that. If there's 60 minutes, like, right, and people will stop breathing for up to a minute. So
wow.
There's
so is that what near-death experiences also occur for people?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, this is like like the whole, like a lot of people died in their sleep from this way before they even knew what this was. And it usually, though, by the way, was due to heart-related issues from the complications of not breathing, not actually that you stopped breathing and then died. You usually wake up, and most people, if you've ever been around somebody and all of a sudden you hear this,
oh yeah,
that's them catching their breath.
Well, let me ask you this then. Let me see if I can break this down if I'm understanding it. We're electrical beings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the heart is the torus field that keeps the engine running. So if the heart isn't working right, then while you're in these states of sleep, it affects whatever the function of the brain, the computer, and it not working properly.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you. I'm surprised I understood that.
You guys can tell this does get complicated, and I feel so fortunate. And some of you guys don't know my story, but I literally fell into sleep medicine. I was working actually at the age of 19, fresh into Oregon from Wisconsin. Made some random new friends, right? And I shouldn't say random new. I kind of knew them from there, but they helped me out. And my friend was an office manager for a sleep lab, and her mother had worked for this doctor for forever. And Dr. Rich was one of the coolest to this day out of all the doctors I worked for. Top notch, best doctor ever. But regardless, he took note. He just took note of me paying attention to what was going on, and I took a lot of interest in what I was seeing, and I started talking to the patients over the phone to try to help them. And I was obviously coursed through some of this, but then he just said, "Hey, do you want to do this? Do you want to? Do you want to?" And then I obviously, had to go to a schooling for it and get certified. And I am now switching careers, so I am going to be like letting I am actually still an RPSGT and a clinical sleep educator, but I'm letting that all drop off because I'm taking on new credentials now.
So what is this that you're showing us here?
So this is the different stages of sleep. And what's really important that people don't understand is your awake activity versus like delta, which I was talking about, which is very loosey-goosey, versus REM. So I want you guys to take a note of what does REM look like versus stage 1 versus awake. And 2 has a lot of similarities as well, but they all look very similar, do they not? And this is, by the way, one of my favorite parts of my job. I am really good at this is pattern recognition. So
no wonder why. Okay, I'm good at that too, my friend.
Oh, it's so much fun. So like one of my main jobs towards the end of getting out of this field was I would just like in between doing the community work and working with the other doctors, I would score sleep studies. And so every 30 seconds you have to claim, it's like there's all these rules and stuff that you have to follow, but you have to determine like what stage of sleep they're in. So you're just going through like 1, 2, 3 REM and like and awake, and it's actually very fun.
So do you mind me asking you and tying this into the MK Ultra?
So one of the things I think that's interesting too that I want to show you is this brain activity that looked quite a bit different than anything we've looked at so far. And initially I pulled this up because I was trying to again give you guys an example of a bigger, like when you're looking at more activity. I want you to first of all look at the heart. Now, right off the bat, I was like, oh shit, something's wrong with the EKG monitor. Like the tech didn't set it up correctly. They got it like flip-flopped or something. And then I'm looking at this a little further and I'm like, oh, no, I think that's the patient's heart. So they actually look like they're in AFib 24/7 is what I think I'm looking at right there, to be honest. Of course, I am not an EKG tech, but yes, I can see that stuff. But the brain activity compared to some of the other stuff I was showing you and what you look at, this isn't as bad as I've seen with some. But look at that amplitude. It's really low. It's really minimal compared to some of the other stuff you were looking at. So let me go back real quick just so you can see what I mean when I say versus like. And of course, like these are 2 totally different sleep stages, okay, mind you. But what I was actually showing you in that past in the first one, and I'll go back to it, was stage 2. What you're looking at right here is stage 2 on this patient, kind of going into stage 3. But so look at that amplitude difference. So patients who are on heavy duty, and again, guys, I'm talking 2 pages of medication. I saw it all the time, or 1 page of medication. A variety of options. You want to talk cholesterol, high blood pressure, mental health, a lot of mental health. I saw low amplitude. So you're looking at.
This is really interesting to hear you break this down because now it's making more sense for the terminology that I came across when they were doing their studies on these patients for MK Ultra, like depattering. Is that?
Yes. And so now when I was talking with you about this amplitude thing, I want you to think about what they were doing with these drugs. They were trying to test that amplitude. They were trying to see if they could bring it back. If it had gotten lowered or reduced like this, if they could bring it back up and rewire the activity.
And then that's also,
guess who our partner is, who was considered part of the MKL project because of what did he work with that we talked about today?
Oh my.
MDMA. And who was he? He was a retired Dow chemist. This is so I have some of you guys know I started a new project, and I'll touch on it just a little bit more, not in time tonight, but it's called the Ethogen Stewardship, and Ethogens is like, that's MDMA, that's LSD, but it's also peyote. and a lot of us don't understand it because we see one as being some sort of chemical that was created in a lab versus a cactus that you pick off the ground.
You're a little far away from your mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is that better?
Yes.
Yes.
So
I got animated.
is this also, so we're talking about the medications, but also electroshock therapies, right?
Oh,
So
yeah, and like
before,
lobotomies.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, before I
Go
get
ahead.
into that though, this, I'm going to talk about soldiers again, why they would go through when they come back from war, why they would be in a childlike state from
Because
this
they literally.
depattering
Okay.
methods.
Yes.
Okay.
So this would connect to, and let me see if I can pull this up.
Because they kept referencing that in the document that I was reading, and they kept referring it to the person being in a childlike state after they were done with the experiment.
Do you remember what you were asking me about, or you brought up specifically the amygdala?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Let me
So
see if it pops up. Do you guys is it okay if I play a quick? Let me see if the volume's set up. Oh, I might need to do something really quick. Let me do this really quick and then see. Oh, okay. Maybe I did. Okay. This is, I have two, oops, sorry. I have two really good shorts that touch on this. I thought maybe you guys want to take a second and just watch those.
Yeah.
Cool. And so I love this because, like, when you and I first started talking like this, you want to talk about a woman who intuitively understands these things. Like, and this has been my deep research for a long time, so I just got to back her up on this. But one of my favorite books is called The Body Keeps the Score, and it's the stress to disease connection. And then through that is something that now you can go see a practitioner. There's actually one in town here, and I am going to try to interview her before I move. Not sure if it's going to happen, but regardless, she practices something called German New Medicine. So again, going back to this stress to disease related connection, and PTSD is one of the number one components that people are paying attention to with this. And who do they pay attention to with it? None other than the veterans, because they're the the most best example. So thanks, guys. I'll play it.
If you're under great stress, the between prefrontal cortex and the amygdala breaks down. So 1 week of stress in preparation for a major exam at the university will disrupt the communication between prefrontal cortex and the amygdala. Now it comes back when the stress is over. But while you're under that stress, prefrontal cortex is not able to calm the amygdala down the way it normally would. If you have enormous stress growing up, then it affects brain development. And so you get a situation where the child grows up to be an adult who's hypervigilant, who's very easily aroused and very anxious, because the communication between prefrontal cortex and the amygdala didn't develop properly because of the stress the child was under. And when you see people recover from extreme stress or PTSD, I think what we're seeing is the communication between prefrontal and the amygdala being restored.
Wow, Estra, that's my story.
Right? I
Smokes.
knew you would love that. I knew it, right?
Ugh.
But that's so good. And it makes so much sense. Think about our people. Hyper vigilant, hypersensitive.
Yes, and we see that on these panels daily.
Bam.
Interesting.
You guys talking my language. All right, you want to watch one more about hypnosis and trauma?
Sure. Before we do you have any questions, Cynthia?
Yes. So once the brain is rewired, it can never rewire itself back from physical trauma and or just like mental trauma. It can't fix itself.
I would say, yeah, like there's no way it's ever going to go back to like a where it was.
Uh-huh.
But it can still restore itself. That's kind of what that was showing you. is that there is the ability, and this is what they're finding, is there's like a technique that some people don't even know about that people use. It's called TFT. It's the freedom tapping technique. And so literally all you're doing is like you're taking your fingers and you're tapping your cheeks at the same time, and then you pull up and you tap your forehead, and you might tap the top of your head, and there's like this whole rhythm to it. And
Okay.
you're like, how does that rewire your brain? Well, if you want to talk about right, like, eye to hand coordination techniques, that's been shown to sometimes be able to be restored and rewired. So it's kind of a similar same technique. It's just getting your brain to see things differently.
Well, this is why I chose this particular background to show the networking, because that's how the entire body is. So this is through ancient practices. I've been looking into trying to rewire my brain and get it out of the state that it was in. And it is a long process, but it's slowly but surely coming along. I mean, even down to me researching frequency and listening to a certain frequency like 432, and it creating new gray matter. Is that how are you familiar with that at all?
Yes,
Okay.
actually, yes, and they do. That is possible, and I do have a video about that, and I think the body keeps the score has also done studies that they did prove there was an increase in gray matter in some of these situations. Yep.
Well, I'm all about trying to increase some of my gray matter. I'm desperate.
Gray matter comes the new neuron network. So yes, exactly.
Another thing, look, I see us go into the deep sleep. When we wake up naturally, does it just reverse itself back, or how does your body naturally, your mind naturally wake itself up?
So actually, I'm glad you brought this up, because you mentioned something earlier too about memory. So it is to do with your cycles. So the body instinctively knows that you're supposed to go through an X amount of cycles in a certain amount of time. So generally you are waking up. Often most of us actually are waking up out of REM. REM is one of the most disrupted stages of sleep. But and as we get older, I should say, we are more likely to wake up out of that. But generally you are supposed to, like, even if you do fall back asleep and then continue through, and then eventually you shift back into like usually a stage 2 to 1 phase. But in the first 90 minutes of sleep, you go into REM, and then you're going to go into REM again in the night. So you're going to go into it twice. So once your body's gone through both of those cycles, and then also have gone through the delta or the stage 3 sleep. So you're now looking at brain restorative aspects and body restorative aspects. Once you go through that, the body kind of knows, and then you gradually will wake up. But this is a release of your hormones. So when you start to see also the sun in the morning, your body releases cortisol. And X amount of time before bed, your body releases melatonin.
Bingo! There it is.
When my sister and I were little, we used to play this game, and we would, because she was like, you can train yourself to wake up at a certain time. And I was like, what? She was like, yeah. She was like, just tell yourself right now what time you want to wake up, and you will. And it was a game that we played, and we played it always. And to this day, I can always, before I go to bed, because I always calculate, if I'm going to bed at this time, I need at least 7 hours of sleep, so I can't wake up before this time. But I can kind of tell myself, be up by 9 o'clock, and I'm always up within 3 minutes. So is there like a brain connection? Is that how is that? How does us telling stuff to ourselves? And also all content creators will testify to this, and I'm very confident when I say we can be asleep and we can sense when somebody else is talking about us, and we can wake up and go straight to the phone and go straight to the live, and they'll be like, and then Cynthia. So what is that connection through your mental, because now that I'm realizing the brain is still awake and we're a frequency or an energetic field, we're telling ourselves that, and B, our energy, our energetic space is like, hey, you're being talked about.
For sure. I mean, tell me stories of why people have woken up right when somebody died.
Right.
Like the exact time. You can't explain that. I mean, Sorry, excuse
Well, I
me.
can, in my
I was gonna
opinion.
say, excuse me, Western medicine refuses to explain it. You sound like me asking. I used to ask my doctor. I'm like, I'd start to, because I was really into ghosts and stuff too. I'd be like, so can you explain, like, does any, like, what are we seeing? Like, are we asleep when we're seeing this? And honestly, there's too many stories. So the ghost thing's not a great example, but this sweet man, and he was actually he was known as one of the founders of sleep medicine in Oregon. So like, and this is now back in 2012 when I worked for him. When this is when I first started in sleep medicine. And he would, bless his heart, he would entertain me for a little bit and be like, I don't know, Sarah. Like, you got to go to the metaphysics on this one.
Yeah, I mean, look at Miss Margot says the body keeps the score is my Bible. Not really, but it's close.
Dude, I am actually reacquainting myself with the Lord, and I've been, I'm very thankful that in my life I've reestablished that relationship with God. But so like my Bible doesn't look like this by any means, but the body keeps the score is highlighted and
I haven't read it yet, and I'm going to read it. But I just want to say I'm going to tie this all in together for just a moment. If you guys, entertain me here for a moment. I really feel, and I truly believe in the concept of macro to micro, and that God is in the mind, and that's how God communicates with us in the mind through frequency, vibration, breathing techniques, all of these things, everything. On my channel, I talk about the electric universe. So electrically networking those who are stronger in tuned, especially who have stronger Taurus fields and spirits and souls, mind, body, spirit, that whole thing. I think that those are the individuals that you're going to hear about spirituality from. Those are going to be the ones that you hear that have these dreams and they see these loved ones.
We now know that physics can back this up as well. So though it's not talked about as much, but 0 point is literally meaning that every single molecule has a 6 to 8 foot radius around it, electromagnetic, and it's influenced by its exterior. And
I think that, to be honest, when you say that, I'm getting completely sidetracked here, but I think that that's what happens when this realm naturally resets itself, is it goes to 0 point and resets and gets out of that organic state of trauma that the world potentially is in, and it resets itself. But that's just Yo's little electric universe theories that she has. But before we continue, do you want to open up the panel, Miss Cynthia, or do you want to continue with Miss Ezra?
No, of course with Ezra, but I would love to hear from other people.
Yeah.
I like the way you said that's how we operate. God operates through our mind, through our thoughts. I think that as well. And there were times in my life where I had 2 jobs. I had a 9 to 5, and then I worked late at night until like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'd have to be right back up to go to my 9 to 5. And I'd always pray, even though it's only 3 hours, like give my body enough strength. Let this sleep be so good that it feels like I got 10 hours of rest. Dang. And I was always energetic. So I always pray over my sleep, because I also realize that's when you're the most vulnerable.
Yes. And that, now that you just said that, it's not to say I haven't at all, but I definitely am going to do it tonight.
Yeah.
It's such a good reminder.
And but my sister and I, because we played that game when we were little.
That is cool though. And you're not the only one who've said that. And also, like, there's certain things I can tell you, like, a lot of people wake up around 3 a.m. They call it the watching hour.
I know, I've heard that too.
And most of the time it is because of where you go to sleep. So your cycle, you're coming right out of REM, right out of dream.
Well, I dropped the link down in the chat for anybody else that'd like to come up and talk with us. We've got about another 40 minutes here for anyone who would like to join. But I know before we continue, Ezra, you suggested that there was another video or another short that you wanted to share with us?
Yeah, that would be great.
Excellent. Great conversation, by the way. This is my jam.
Me too. That's why I'm so excited. Like, thank you guys again for having me up. And I realized, like, I used to talk a lot of like, I'm going to come up and do a whole presentation on EEG, and I never did. And even some of my videos, I do have one on resonance frequency therapy, but it doesn't quite, touch to the kind of topics we're getting into right here and the impact that it has. So I am still planning on doing that, and I'm very lucky to have some good fortune and friends to help that happen. So we're going to be making some pretty sweet documentary type style videos moving forward.
What I like about the subject matter is we all come from different angles, and somehow we have within the same conclusion. We've all,
yes,
around the same thing, which I find interesting as well, which also goes to that magnetic field that our body is, and energetically how we gravitate to one another.
Yes, exactly. And sometimes why we gravitate, right? Because things don't always work out as they seemingly should, or the connection is strong at one point and then it fluctuates, and it's like, what is the purpose? What is the reasoning? And that's where, for me, you got to come back to God, because there's right, that's the defining answer. And then you can actually, from that, in my opinion, sort of dissect it and be like, oh, clearly I needed to work on this. Clearly I needed to be able to see this. And that was my lesson, right?
Well, let's go ahead and pull up your other video.
Awesome. It's in the back.
Oh, it is? How come? What is going on with my backstage, man? I don't
know.
see
And
it.
I can remove it and add it again to see if that fixes it.
Yeah, I don't see anything back here.
I know we were talking about this earlier today. It's like, we've had this problem before.
Well, Cynthia had mentioned to me earlier that she had written something in the back chat, and I don't see, see that either. So I don't know what's going on. Maybe, I don't know if I'm going to have to leave the studio and come back in.
Is it that you're zoomed in? For some reason? Okay, so it's back there again.
Yeah, I don't see anything back here.
Let me see.
And
I don't see anything either.
I can see it sitting there.
Well, can you do present screen from your computer?
That's what I'm okay, but let me put the link for this one then in the back chat and see if you guys can just pull it up then.
Is this what? Let's see here. No, let's see here. Present or invite.
In the back. I
right
see it.
Next to those boxes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I see that one.
That's so weird.
Thank you, Martha.
And I did like a whole where I stopped the screen and then I represented. But that's what's weird, because you could see it when I first put it up, right? That is weird.
Well, like I can see this one.
No, that's it. No, that's the one. Sorry, that's the one. It just looks the same because it has the same coloring in the beginning. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
You're good. Okay, so go ahead. You push play.
I could have explained that. All right, thanks, guys. Here we go.
Now let's pivot into the lens of neuroscience and trauma. Tests that measure electrical activity in your brain show that prior to age 7, your brain operates in mainly lower level theta brainwaves. So everything in the first 6 years of life is absorbed into your subconscious mind, much like a hypnotic trance. So you grow up under a spell of sorts. Physician Gabor Mate defined trauma as an emotional wound that induces fear and interferes with the ability to grow and develop. We've all experienced trauma in varying degrees, including secondary trauma just watching TV, news, and social media. Regardless of the degree, trauma impairs the brain and nervous system's ability to feel safe. Seeking emotional safety, children begin to start to develop adaptive responses that continue on into adulthood. Now let's pivot in.
Good stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yes,
so
ma'am.
Think about that, right? Like, so your brain is literally programmed at that young age. So
oh my gosh.
Getting into MK Ultra, why would they not want to come at our children? What is the TV programming to some of these children? We don't fully understand the ramifications of Disney yet, as much as we love it. Why are so many so obsessed?
Yeah, we could totally get started on that with that was part of the information that I had seen in there too, was Walt and the animations and his approach to fairy tales, because I did children's literature for a while. I was going to go into liberal studies, and it was only at that point that I recognized and learned what the real stories from these cultures were, and they were nothing like Walt's version.
The real Brothers Grimm, right? Those, and if you guys have not actually read
Snow White, Cinderella, all of them, they're all very traumatizing stories. No, you're good. They're very traumatizing stories.
I'm trying to be better.
And Disney beautified a lot of those stories.
Exactly. Let's see. It's interesting because this is like, I don't want to say brainwashing, but this is like when I'm most aggressive in my grandkids' lives, are these early ages, and installing my values in them. And it's because I've always felt like, teach the kids young, they'll come back to it. So it's interesting to hear that that's our brain actually absorbs it the most. So it makes you got to go harder now.
And did you hear too, you guys, like, they're literally telling you the state that they can get your brain activity into to get you into a hypnotic state.
Oh, for sure. I mean, absolutely. But I want to highlight this here. Namaste the fuck away. Most are in daycare with 8 other babies that need attention at the same time. Same thing with school.
Yep.
Yeah.
Same things with phones. I can't stand going to the store and seeing a baby in the stroller, seat belted in, still in diapers, with the phone in its hand watching it. I hate that so much. Like, teach them about the prices at the store. Start talking to them about their surroundings.
Well, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, when I was looking up the gifts for the stream, I was surprised to find some of the ones that I did. Social media is drugs too.
It is.
That's great.
Nice. And this one here too. Internet now a substitute for real human interactions.
It is. Some people, this is my community, this is my interaction. And it is. I mean, but I can no longer deny it. This is a community, but you need to have a balance about both. It's beneficial to you as a whole.
Yeah. And then we've got this generation of young adults that are like this. Right? Everything is this computer, and the things that they share with me in the past, like what they find is entertaining is this repetitive stimulation of information that I can't, it agitates me. It's almost like when our grandparents say, oh, I can't stand that music. I feel like that now when I hear modern music, but I also feel that way when I see these trends of these younger adults that say that they like to watch shorts all day long. And what type of shorts they are, or these gamers that stream all day, and what types of games that they're doing, and how that is potentially like an MK Ultra in itself on programming these people, and how you speak in your real life in comparison to the culture that they speak in about and act like here on the internet.
Were any of you guys fans of Grand Theft Auto growing up?
No, I threw, and I'd be like, oh my God, sons, I don't know what happened. Your machine broke while y'all are at school.
Good job.
I despised video games because I watched them go into a different state. Their behavior changed. And once I recognized that, I took it away. They hate me to this day for that still. I don't care.
So Cynthia, like, I can't tell you, I would spend like 6 hours playing Grand Theft Auto, and this is like in the OG days, so it was like super lame graphics. And I'd walk outside, and I remember like walking up next to a car going, I'm just going to hijack this car real quick.
Right. Right.
Right,
Their
it's
whole
programming.
attitude changed.
Right, it's complete programming. Like I'm listening in and
Totally.
watching these younger adults and these teenagers and the culture in these video games, and it isn't their culture, but they're mimicking it.
Mm-hmm.
And they're pretending like they're in the Grand Theft Auto style here on the internet, when you know damn well they're no thug. They're not going to go out there and do. I've never played the game. I'm aware of what the game is, but I've never sat down and actually played it. So I've seen little blurps here and there through the years on what it is, but it's just really fascinating.
Yeah.
What the technology and how it affects us.
My son and I were talking, and of course we were talking about the conflict, and he was like, well, I don't think I'm gonna be drafted, don't worry, everything's done by drones, so all those gamers have got it. They're gonna take the young kids who are and I was like, oh my gosh, you might be right. And think about it, all these kids that are the master shooters, they have the Olympics to find the best of the best. What are they? Hey, son, come back here. You want us to help all your dreams come true?
Point. Like I mean, think about that, because they already used to, actually,
Right.
my
And it's
brother,
just a game. It's just a game to them. They're already
you know what my brother did for a
desensitized.
living? There was a company, he worked for the military, like right out of college. And he designed simulation games for the military, or simulation software, where you're going into combat or you're going into like flight simulation. So think about that, like, right?
Yeah.
That's so. Of course, they were like you said,
They were
really good. Yeah, they already know. They already have the top, right? The top winners, the top marksmen.
Would you like to play this game, but it look more real, son? Oh yeah, that'd be great. And I'm gonna get hella paid. It's every gamer's dream come true. I'm the best. I'm the warrior from over here behind this keyboard.
Until you find out you're killing real people, then it's a different.
I don't even think that, I'm not even sure they'll be triggered by that, because the programming, such as with the MK Ultra, that I was reading about and learning about, their minds are programmed to forget that memory. They could even program it's not real. They could have a filter where they don't even look real to him.
And you know what I would say, though, the problem is that they haven't perfected is that they don't actually, they can temporarily like disengage your emotions, but the aftermath effect of what that does to you down the road, and then how your body responds based on other responses because you didn't adapt or understand how to deal with that trauma. You'll have some other like exuberant, like, this is what, again, this is what we are seeing in front of us with some of these people. We're seeing them they didn't know how to form the proper connection to begin with. What's up, wizard? And they continued to go down that dysregulated route, so then the body inevitably it has to react, because this is like good chaos, like in dysregulation. You can't avoid it. It's going to come back and hit you in the face until it fixes itself.
Well, I know for me, I've really, through learning how to do streams and stuff like that, I've really had to self-regulate how much I'm on my phone or even on the computer. Honestly, I'm not on my computer very often. The most time that I generally spend on the computer is in preparation for my streams. Luckily, I haven't gotten attached to my computer, but as much as I've gotten attached to the cell phone, because the cell phone is just a smaller version of it. But I noticed that I got caught up in all that constant scrolling. And so I only give myself a couple hours. And so if I'm going to do a little bit in the morning, in the afternoon, or whatever, and it's a hard one to train myself to do, but it really does change the difference in the modality of what my brain is doing. My brain like goes into a different automatic mode. Almost, I don't even know what the term is for that, but I know, like, when I'm working, I do that mode too. But when I'm on the cell phone and I'm listening to stuff, it also does the same thing. So I make sure not to do it 2 hours before I go to bed, for sure.
Okay, I can't believe you just literally said 2 hours before bed. Okay. So the issue, the number one issue with our devices right now is the blue screen. So the blue screen releases early morning sunlight. So you release cortisol, just like you do when you go through trauma responses, by the way. But you release cortisol, which is what you do in the morning.
So then these
why are we
streamers,
up? Yeah, all night,
so
because we're
these
literally
streamers
playing.
that are doing that, when they say that I have, refresh my memory, what is it when you can't sleep?
Insomnia.
Thank you. So when you have insomnia and you're freaking streaming all night long, get off of the damn computer. Get off of your phone.
Exactly.
I have a very, very fast mind. My mind has always been fast. It is not uncommon for me to have 4 screens going.
I love that. Oh, yes.
I will watch a movie on subtitles. I will have a YouTube going that I'm listening to, and I'll be working on 2 streams.
See, I can't do that for very long, or I crash. Because
my son's do you have enough going on? But
I guess I could do that too, but not with technology. Yeah. I'm doing that with my job.
Like she's talking about, like I have something up that I'm listening up to, something separate that I'm watching, because those two are like usually a little different. Then I have my, like, whatever I'm designing, whether I'm doing like Photoshop, like logo work and drawing something, or I'm creating a video. And then I have like some sort of other like reference research thing up that I'm like going back and forth to.
I know, right? It's insane.
Wait, ADHD.
Right. It's crazy, and people don't understand it, but it's
I understand it. I just
different drinks next to you, Cynthia.
Do what?
Do you often have 3 different types of drinks next to you?
Oh my gosh, I have 3 right now. I've got a tea, a coffee, and water.
That's what I mean.
See, my brain, I'm still trying to retrain it. So I don't like it when I get overstimulated, because then I get agitated. There's only so much of that I can take. Like I can listen to music. If I'm going to be listening to music, I'm listening to music. If I'm going to listen to a podcast, I'm listening to a podcast. Like I can't do.
But when you do focus, you're really like dedicated and focused. Like,
yes,
you're in my opinion, you're one of the best researchers. And sometimes, like I think Cynthia and I would agree, like this definitely works against us. But it's like in our, like we can't help it. Like I get so bored so quick. Like, and I'll go back to it, and I really push myself to go back to things. But I have to have like 3 different things to distract me in the meantime. And then I'll be like, okay, I'll go back.
When I was listening in on somebody else speaking about neuroplasticity, one of the things that they were suggesting with this digital age is they said, stop watching the shorts and don't just focus on 30-minute videos. Watch the long documentaries. It does something different for your attention span. So these kids are scrolling, right? They're watching TikTok. They're watching these shorts, and their attention span sucks. They get agitated. They get irritable.
Shorts, literally specifically about neuroplasticity. I totally agree. And again, like I know we've gotten on this, but I have so many different clips and setups to get myself up for like the next. Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It is interesting. It's interesting how our mind works. Like I really thought it flatlined when I went to sleep, and when I woke up, it was good. And it's interesting how we're all energetically, and then that makes me dig deeper. Like, how are we energetically connecting with each other?
Yeah.
Oh, this is hilarious. TikTok gave me Havana syndrome. Now I'm licking windows.
The schnozberries taste like schnozberries.
My parents had a dog that was addicted to watching TV, And if you had a YouTube video playing, he knew how to change it, how to swipe it to the next video with his paw.
Dang. So it was even
What?
for the
Yeah, because
dogs.
my mom was babysitting my nephew around the same time he was a puppy. And so like when he would sit and watch TV with my nephew, like my nephew would sit and watch cartoons, and Gulliver, that was his name, would sit there and watch it too. And he became addicted. It was insane.
That is insane.
I have
That's kind
videos of him watching it
like,
too.
how
He
do
died.
they even interpret it, you know?
My mom even bought him a little laptop, like a toddler laptop
Oh,
computer.
Oh my goodness.
because he had his own chair in front of the TV, but it was really in the way. So she got him his own thing.
Okay, so I have this meme of somebody who has like a cat in a bib in a high chair, and it says, "Why couldn't you just have kids?"
Right?
Love of
My
God.
mom wasn't buying me my own computer.
That's one of those cases.
Let's see here.
I
Here I
do have
am.
this other little clip we could, short, so
Great.
just a minute that we could
I'm
play.
all for it, even though we just said we didn't, to encourage one another with the clips, but those are great clips. It says, but we also recognize that that's algorithmic. Can you say the word for me? The algorithm needs that for your channel, right?
Yeah, and I try to use it. I try to use it in the best way possible because I was very much against them as well.
It's like an
Very,
advertisement or commercial for your channel, right?
yeah, and like these, you can see that it actually forced me to really look at these segments I was pulling out and pull these really clear, concise, and I'm now pulling for more than one quote from each video. So there's a lot of really good content, and it sticks with you, I think, a little bit more sometimes, not always, but sometimes.
Well, Here I Am says, yeah, I try not to feed the ad. No scrolling for me, no shorts for the most part either. They made an ad nation out of us. Ad.
ADD, yeah, I get that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very clever.
But
Yes,
that
it's all
actually started
commercialism,
before.
right? And
That actually-
corporation.
And I personally don't feel like you can blame that on the 50s just because of the introduction of the TV. I know that's kind of a bold statement, but that is really the start of where we started to see that. I see it as in an idle hands issue, that we used to have apprenticeships, that we used to have kids, and then it kind of became this like child slave labor concept. But the kids used to help out more in certain things, or just have more like hobbies that were contributed back to society.
I'll even take it a step further. It broke up families eating dinner together. They just wanted to eat in front of the TV.
And whole communities breaking up, not coming together in times like that. So for sure.
TV.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. All right, we'll play this real quick.
Okay.
The human brain is made up of billions of neurons that talk to one another, and this communication is what allows us to do what we need to do. But 50% of the human brain is actually not made of neurons, but made up of these other cell types called glia. And they've become really a focus of neuroscience research because there's a lot of evidence that in different neurological disorders or neurodegenerative disorders that these glia are becoming sick and dying. So I think one of the most studied cases of this is in multiple sclerosis, where you get loss of the glial cells that wrap around neurons in the brain. And when you lose those glia, the neurons die, and then you end up with multiple sclerosis. And so if we were to sum it up into one word, they're there to allow neurons to survive for a long time.
So think about that, right, with what we're talking about. Like, it's somewhat an impact of the neurons, but what if it's this coding in this glial cell context around it that's actually getting compromised? Because MS has been on the rise, and some of the cures for MS are very interesting.
This is a very interesting topic for me, because I feel like with my health issues that I've had, And I've mentioned in the past that I was on death's door. I think that that's, what was the term for that? Glial, or
Glial cells.
the glial cells. I think that I am lacking that protective layer around the nerves. And I also recognize that that must be what I've seen in my family with the relatives that have had dementia and Alzheimer's. And I've paid attention to what their life was like, their diets, their lack of exercise, their mobility, the cycle of trauma within the family. And I feel like I'm at that stage where I started to get really, really anxious that that was my future. So I completely changed everything in my life in hopes that I could try to heal the brain and focus on the gray matter as much as possible. And for me, that's the spiritual awakening. And I think that that's what baptism is. I think that that's what born again really is in terms of spirituality.
Yeah. And just want to send my regards to YOLO. Thank you for sharing that. Our heart is with you right now, because that is none of that's easy, no matter what realm or what situation we're in.
Yes, my heart goes out to you, YOLO. I have my auntie, her 80th birthday party is this weekend, and she's at a very advanced stage. And it is you suffer along with them in a different way, because you're seeing them die slowly. So it's not easy.
I think for me, the hardest part with both of my grandparents, who one of them was extremely close with, but just like towards the end, in the gauntness, and just like already they've kind of lost themselves, but then to have that on top of it, it's like, oh man, it feels embodied. No, sorry, no, go ahead.
And strength for you, YOLO and Wizard, just to go through this.
And this is a great topic, because I feel really passionate. I'm very passionate about this subject of trauma and rewiring the brain and stopping the cycle of trauma. It's something that I think is a subject that we should all be talking about when we're watching these behaviors with one another on these live panels in particular.
Yeah, because let's talk about high intensity in your brain activity when you're releasing stress and anger, and how, again, if you're not allowing for that proper relax and calm down and allowing your brain to go through the proper stages, then it makes it almost impossible for it to heal itself. So when I was talking about the stages of sleep, so I didn't quite get into this part, but at one point you had mentioned memory, and they have actually been able to find out that when you go into REM sleep, you are sorting out your memories. And so they do feel like there's some brain restoring happening at that time.
Oh.
And at that same time, we watch your body sort of have these other issues. And it's like a little bit like it's lost control. But your brain also, to be honest, looks crazy too. It's it's really hard to explain, because you almost can touch into every single stage of sleep when you're in REM. But one of my favorite parts, and how I was able to figure out, was you have something called sawtooth waves, which is nothing you see anywhere else. And then your eyes start to move because you're looking at whatever you're dreaming about. And then it's right away, you're like, oh, and they're in REM. And so, but those two synapses that I'm talking about, and how your body heals itself during those times versus the brain healing itself versus the body. And so in delta sleep, we see your brain go right, like mush, like I was talking about, just really wide, expansive activity. And we see your body go through some sort of relaxing, calm, restorative state, potentially. So
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a routine before I go to sleep. I have a very specific music that I listen to and breath work that I do, and to
Nice.
remind the body that it's safe. And then the breath work, recognizing how I need to oxygenize my body because it's going to be laying down for so many hours. And I have been able to sleep much better since I've started this routine for myself these last few years. But just a little bit of information about me. I've gone into a catatonic state 4 times in my life.
Catatonic, like you were in seizures, like mass, like you like
Yes, I
tonic,
had. Yes,
small.
I had some pretty good seizures, and then just lights off
Yeah,
until it. Now I know the brain was
I've
over.
actually had a few. You
Yeah,
don't
the
know.
brain was completely overstimulated by what was
Yeah.
going on, and it just needed to shut down and restart
Sorry,
itself.
did you have that? I don't mean to be rude. Did you have that verified and did you have your heart checked?
No, I didn't
Because
have my
a lot of
my
the time I
heart
know
checked. I had to go to the doctor, but they didn't check my heart.
it's not to say that it's not connected to the brain activity, because again, this is the direct correlation, right? Like we were getting at. And this is connected to your breath work, but um I have a feeling, because I think you and I have talked a little bit more about our health history, and I think we have some other similarities, which make us more prone to this. So it makes it easy for our heart to drop really low in certain stages, and it that will bring on seizure activity.
Well, I mean, when the last time it had happened to me, I didn't have any education on the importance of the breath work and the
Mhm.
heart and the mind, and I didn't know about any of those things.
Like you
But
can tell when it's going to happen now, kind of. Do you get deja vu before?
I have not experienced that. If anything, I
Okay,
avoid it like the plague. I
you
don't.
do.
I have the tools necessary now, and
Yeah.
I remove myself from the overstimulation so that because I don't want to ever go back and revert to that in my life. Which is why when I see my auntie this weekend, it's going to be really hard because I don't want that to be my future. See what I'm saying? Like
Mhm. But you
it's
set yourself up for such success. Like to be able to step away to just immediately take on that practice makes all the difference. And I can tell you, because of my history and my issues, I know now when it's coming on. It's so weird too, because it'll correlate to a dream I had. And all of a sudden I'm like just walking around in the backyard and I'm like, oh, uh-oh. And then I can feel it and I kind of can stop myself and situate and make sure I can get myself so that it doesn't happen. And so
Well,
I
and also recognizing that what I was doing in terms of diet and not properly
Mhm.
using my body the way that I needed to use it to stay strong. Um,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
that has, and not staying properly hydrated, because my career was very demanding of me. And, I'd have my water, but I'd sit there and have my big old tea right there, or my sweet tea, and I would chug the heck out of those things. But realizing that we're electrical components and we need the water, we need the
Mhm.
vegetables,
Yes.
we need the fruit to uh, help the electrical
Your bare
component
feet on the
of
ground too.
of
Yeah.
the body. Yeah, let me go ahead and read this chat. I'm a little bit behind here. Um, Miss Margot, this is an excellent practice, Yolanda, a regular routine. This is advantage for everyone, especially youth and individuals with cognitive impairment or processing disorders. Ms. Margot, these are the conversations that I have with my nieces and nephews and younger people and the people that I love, recognizing the characteristics of trauma and stress. And that's what I want to pass on to them.
For sure. And that's actually what mine was connected to. So it comes on most often with higher stress. Um and it actually first happened to me when I was actually about to start a shift to working to I always have to run 2 sleep studies, 2 patients a night. or when I did. And so, and it was right in front of my one of my favorite people, one of my mentors in sleep medicine too. And I just passed out and smacked my head really bad. So that time I actually got a bit of a concussion. And that's the only time that's ever happened. And then it's like funny because now ever since then I'm just really hyper aware. And I will tell you, I've noticed it's increased a little bit recently. And I'm getting back now into my routine now that my semester's been over and I'm out of school. I'm just doing an online school this summer. I've noticed that it's kind of creeping back, and like it was with this last semester, because this last semester was pretty stressful. And so it is. Yeah. You cannot deny the stress connection. Sorry. Thank you.
Well, we're getting closer towards the end of the stream, Miss Esra, and I just want to say thank you so much for coming up here and sharing this information. This year is going to be such a fun year working with you and for your project. I am going to drop, or you can see it right here at Mindful Exposures. Please check out Esra's channel. She has a lot of great content about these topics, and she's going to have a lot more to offer all of us on her journey for her project that she's been working on. And I hope to be able to be a part of it too and help it come into fruition for her. So you're going to hear us talk about these things: wellness, awareness, health, all of these topics that Esra and I, and even Cynthia, a couple of years ago when I met Cynthia, I wanted us to get together and have these types of conversations with each other. So kudos to you, and thank you for sharing your knowledge and your wisdom with us.
Oh, absolutely. I always enjoy hearing you talk about the mind and the energy. And when y'all were talking about dementia and the different stages and how your mind, it goes back. At my last church, we used to go and sing to the nursing home. We like had a piano player, we had the karaoke machine, and we would sing hymns. And every time people would come in who would be like in a comatose state, and I was always like, how did y'all even get them in the wheelchair to come? But by the end of our hour of singing, they would be standing up, raising their arms, knowing every word to the hymns we were singing. It always amazed me, and I always correlated it was the energy of the music and just the love in that room. So my heart's with Yolo and El Perro and anybody else going through health struggles, whether it be with themselves or with their loved ones. Just sending you healing and love and just the strength to go through it with grace.
Yes, ma'am. I mean, my mama has a friend who is just had the test done where she had to wear that cap, Esra, that is tracing what her brain is doing because she's getting in advanced stages of dementia. But my mom does guitar lessons with her, and she feels she does well when she's doing the guitar. And the birthday party that I was talking about earlier for my auntie this weekend is a karaoke birthday party, because that's what helps her.
Excellent.
Is the music.
It's healing. The frequency, like in how we were saying earlier, we're just an energetic field. I attribute it to God and his design, but it's truly a beautiful thing to watch.
Well, which part of scripture speaks about I try to find all of that in scripture is frequency, vibration verses, because it's mathematical, it is vibration, it's frequency, it's all of those things that we connect with God. I agree. What is this, Miss Esra?
Sorry, that's so beautiful. I just this connection with both of you, and I just really want to make sure before I jump into this, like how honored I am at the opportunity and my ability, and I think the sync, Yo and I talk about this a lot for us, how we came together and found each other, and then our interests, because clearly my background and then like where I'm going with my content, that was Yo as well. So it's really beautiful for us to now be coming to something that you're looking at in front of you. So these are our partners right now for our project, and I'm just gonna for reference flip this back, and I'm gonna apologize to everybody because this is, if you don't recognize this background, then you're not a web developer. but this is very much in hard construction right now, and I promise you, I've asked Kevin now several times to take off the required phone number request when you're putting in your information. But this is the Ethiopian Stewardship Project. This is our baby. This baby is part of, if you've ever heard me talk about Tortuga Bazaar, which is where this is, partially and inevitably going to go. But going back to where I was just showing you this, Ethiopians is what we kind of started off talking about today, which is very kind of controversial as well. But it needs to be understood on a, in my personal opinion, on a very deep level. Because of what I said, what it actually entails. So this is the psychedelic aspect. So, and what that does for your brain activity, and the studies that have actually come out, and what that's shown to also help your activity. Do I believe that you should have to do drugs all the time, at all, and indefinitely to solve your problems? Absolutely not. And if you look at some of the other topics I get into on a heavy basis, these are things that I teach you on. Like there's light, sound, and vibration entrainment. So this is a different way of just like stimulating your brain so it looks and thinks and understands things differently. And so it's another form of healing. But I will tell you, I've had success. I've known a lot of people with success, and there's a lot of studies that have come out on like microdosing mushrooms. I've never done, by the way, any serious psychedelics. My co-founder has. He's actually, I can't wait for some of his stories to come out. He's an old deadhead. He lives a straighter life these days. We were both praying to God this morning. I love it. And just thinking, and we have a lot of blessings right now, and a lot of things to be thankful for with what's about to happen. So with that being said, what you're looking at here, if you do not know who Alex or Sasha Shulgin is, and then his wife next to him, Anne here, he's a retired Dow chemist, and he was well known as part of the MK Ultra movement a little bit as well too, for creating and dabbling with different types of drugs. And so he did that with MDMA. So interestingly, with these people being our partners, and I expect full scrutiny, and I want all of it, all the questions. With that being said, if you actually look into the work that they ended up developing and continuing on, it was actually in conservation and preservation with the local indigenous tribes, and work with their entheogens, which are things like peyote or iboga or ayahuasca, is something you guys might know, right? And iboga, by the way, is where you lick the toad. And guess what they don't want you to do? And by the way, this is another really super exciting. I'm not going to show you their website because we've actually kind of been assigned to redesign it. But we actually are working, and one of the advisors on our group is a tribe from Brazil, and one of their main medicinal aspects is iboga. So anyway, I know I'm kind of rambling, and I appreciate it, and I don't want to take up the end of the show, but I just wanted to share this project and explain again the diversity in the it's, again, we're going to be going into really in deep depth, and we're going to be releasing little documentaries in the process, and that's something that I have some help with, and it's going to be paid for. And if you're a member, you will actually get to see where that money goes and who's getting paid for it.
Exciting, Miss Esra. We're going to talk more about this throughout the year. So this is the first step on my end. Like I said, I would help you out. So I look forward to
see you in a month.
Conversation. Yes, I will see you soon, and we're going to talk about this in depth, one-on-one about this project. So I look forward.
We don't want to say for sure because we haven't officially scheduled it, and we are going to be going to this place, but there is a chance that you and I are actually going to go over to the Chalden farm and
I'm
go
excited.
talk to them. So
Nice.
we're gonna do an in-life interview.
Alrighty.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. I'll
Thank you,
see you
Ezra.
soon.
All right, it was a great show. I enjoyed it. A great topic, good conversation. As always, make sure to hit the like button on your way out the door. Thank you, Yolanda.
Thank you, Miss Cynthia. This was a great topic, and I was hoping that it was going to be this in depth, and we were going to be able to present it like we did. I think we did a great job at it. This is so much fun.
We did a great job. Thank you.
All right, I'll see you again next week. Thank you, everybody who tuned in to what we had to offer you with what little bit of information we learned about MK Ultra. And I look forward to next week's stream with Miss Cynthia. She is going to be the one that's going to host next week's stream. Chicas Locas number 11, number 11. Let's see here. Oh, she's talking to Miss Yolo when she was talking about her experience with psychedelics and how it worked for her. Here I am. Good night. Everybody take care. And I look forward to seeing you all again next time. Until we meet again, good night.